The British expedition against Martinique was a military action that took place in January and February 1762. It was part of the 7 Years' War, prelude, after the surrender of Dominica to a British expeditionary force. The French in Martinique fully expected the same expedition to head into their direction. Accordingly, they took measures for their defense. The French force in Martinique consisted of 1,200 regulars, 7,000 local militia and 4,000 hired privateersmen. Furthermore, the mountainous nature of the island made it rather easy to defend. The neighboring British islands did what they could to help the mother country. Antigua sent blacks and part of her old garrison, the 38th Regiment of Foot, which had not left her since Queen Anne's day. Barbados raised 500 black and 500 white men, which were the more acceptable since that island was the rendezvous for the expedition. The first troops to arrive in Carlisle Bay were a detachment from Belle Isle, Newfoundland, consisting of 69th Regiment of Foot, Ruffin's Regiment of Foot, 90th Morgan's Regiment of Foot, 98th Gray's Regiment of Foot. On the 24th of December 1761, the main army from America under the sails of Admiral Rodney and command of Brigadier Robert Monckton arrived in Carlisle Bay. This army was made up of 11 regiments: 15th Regiment of Foot, 17th Regiment of Foot, 22nd Regiment of Foot, 27th Regiment of Foot, 28th Townshend's Regiment of Foot, 35th Regiment of Foot, 40th Armigers Regiment of Foot, 42nd Royal Highland Regiment of Foot, 43rd Talbot's Regiment of Foot, 46th Thomas Murray's Regiment of Foot, 3rd Battalion of the 60th Royal American Regiment of Foot. American Rangers. In all, the force entrusted to Monckton must have amounted to 8,000 men. Attack on Martinique. On the 5th of January 1762, the British transports weighed anchor and sailed away to leeward, under escort of Admiral Rodney's fleet, past the pitons of St. Lucia and past the port of Castries. 2 days later, the British amphibious force anchored in St. Anne Bay, just round the southern extremity of Martinique, on the western side. 2 brigades were then landed in Les Anses d'Arlet, a bay farther up the western coast, from which they marched to the south of the bay that forms the harbour of the capital, Fort Royal. Finding the road impracticable for transport of guns, they were re-embarked. On the 16th of January, the entire British army was landed without loss of a man at Case Navira, a little to the north of Negro Point. This point forms the northern headland of the harbour, and had at its foot a road leading due east over the mountains to Fort Royal, some 5 kilometers away. The way was blocked by deep gullies and ravines, and the French had erected redoubts at every strategic point, as well as batteries on a hill beyond, named Montautenson. Monckton was thus compelled to erect batteries to silence the French guns before he could advance farther. By the 24th of January, British batteries were completed, and at daybreak a general attack was made under the fire of the batteries upon the French defences on Montautenson, a party being at the same time detached to turn the enemy's right flank. The turning movement was completely successful, and the redoubts by the sea on the enemy's left having been carried, the troops stormed post after post, until at 9 o'clock they were in possession not only of the detached redoubts but of the entire position of Montautenson, with its guns and entrenchments. The French retired in great confusion, some to Fort Royal and some to Montgrenier, a still higher hill to the north of Montautenson. Simultaneously 2 brigades under Brigadiers Haviland and Walsh attacked attacked other French posts to the north of Mont-Tortenson and, after great difficulty owing to the steepness of the ground, succeeded in driving them back to Montgrenier. The losses of the British in this action amounted to 33 officers and 350 men killed and wounded. On the 25th of January, Moncton, now within range of Fort Royal, began to throw up batteries against its citadel. However, the persistent fire from Montgrenier led him to instead target that position first. On the afternoon of the 27th of January, before Moncton had time to launch an attack on them, the French entrenched at Montgrenier suddenly debouched in 3 columns and launched an attack upon Haviland's brigade and the light infantry of the army on Moncton's left. During this attack, one French column exposed its flank to the Highlanders and was almost instantly routed. The 2 remaining columns thereupon gave way, and the whole fled back to Montgrenier with the British in chase. The pursuers plunged down into the intervening ravine after the French and swarming up Montgrenier by every path, road, and passage where men could run, walk, or creep, hunted the fugitives headlong before them. Night came on, but the British officers would not stop until they had cleared every Frenchman off the hill and captured all the works and guns. Moncton at once sent off more troops to support the pursuers. By 1 a.m. on the 28th of January, Montgrenier was securely occupied, at a cost of little more than 100 British killed and wounded. The batteries on Mont-Tortenson were then completed. New batteries were constructed within 370 meters of the citadel. On the 3rd of February, Fort Royal surrendered. By the 12th of February, the rest of the island had been reduced. The regiments employed in Martinique, complete or in detachments, were the 4th, 15th, 17th, 22nd, 27th, 28th, 35th, 38th, 40th, 42nd, 43rd, 48th, 60th, 65th, 69th, Ruffans, Montgomery's Highlanders, Vaughans, Greys, Stuarts, Campbells, 2 companies of American Rangers, 10 companies of Barbados Volunteers. Aftermath. From the 26th of February to the 3rd of March, Moncton sent detachments to the islands St. Lucia, Grenada and St. Vincent, all of which fell without resistance. Moncton had already made arrangements for the capture of Tobago when he received orders requiring the presence of his troops for the attack on Havana, Cuba. Martinique was returned to France after the 1763 Treaty of Paris.